Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's State of the Market Update with the Sultan of Sonar, Zach Strickland. So we had Hurricane Florence hit the Carolinas last week, or actually over the weekend, dump a lot of water. And you can see that in Sonar this week, interestingly enough. So what we're looking at right now is the inbound tender market share weekly change map. Last week I showed this to you, I believe, and it was white. This week it is blue, indicating that it is now changed to the positive instead of the negative. So there's more inbound loads going into the Charlotte market, which is a top 10 market in the country. You can see that also reflected in the head haul index as you click on the Charlotte market here, and the head haul index indicates that there is significantly more inbound freight than outbound freight in the Charlotte market as it stands today. To be expected after everybody exited the area last week due to shippers basically pushing a bunch of stuff out in front of the hurricane. They're not sure what was happening. A lot of water was dumped over the area, but I don't think the Charlotte market necessarily had too significant of an impact, being the bigger freight market in the North Carolina state. And Wilmington, of course, on the coast. Good luck. That looked pretty rough. A lot of floodwaters. Something of note for North Carolina, it is the number 2 hog producing state in the country, behind Iowa. Down here next to Wilmington, it is actually one of the biggest hog producing areas in the country, and a concentrated area, the southeast corner of North Carolina. Tons of hog farms. If you want to learn more about that, you can actually check out one of the articles that our writers wrote the other day, J.P. Hamstead, on the impact of all the flooding on those hog farms. You can actually check it out on Google Maps too and see all the hog farms, which I found pretty interesting. So there will be some fallout from this hurricane. It won't be as much as, say, a Harvey. I think the estimated impact, our chief economist told me, was going to be about $20 billion. And that, as it relates to Harvey was about $125 billion, a total estimate of the damages. So there will be a recovery period, but Wilmington is not the metropolitan area that Houston is, a lot less infrastructure. That being said, let's check out what's going on in these freight markets around this area. We saw last week, like I said, all the trucks were pushing out of the markets. I pulled up the head haul index for Raleigh. Again, this is to the north of Charlotte, and you can see, again, a lot more inbound freight than outbound freight, as we have really come down from what was a relatively balanced area and is now negative 30 value. A 0 would indicate there is just as much inbound as outbound freight in the area. We can look at Charlotte and see the outbound tender volume in this one, and we'll pull up the inbound tender volume, which again, this is how you calculate the head haul index, is you subtract the outbound tender volume from the inbound tender volume, or the inbound tender volume from the outbound tender volume. And if you have more outbound than inbound, it is a very good area if you're a carrier to send your truck into. It also means that you're probably going to eventually run out of capacity if you're a broker. So when you have a positive value for a long period of time, or a significant change to the value, if it's going up rapidly, that means that you are very exposed to upward rate pressure. So right now in Charlotte, there is a lot more inbound than outbound, and it's actually moving in the opposite direction. So there's going to be a lot of capacity in the Charlotte market. That being said, there is going to be some impact of the hurricane and the FEMA and the rebuilding efforts, as a lot of these trucks are going to turn off, as they go and help with the relief efforts on the coast. They won't be required to abide by the hours of service regulations. But again, that means there's probably going to be a lot of trucks in the Carolinas over the coming weeks as things start to kind of slowly, as the floodwaters recede and everybody starts to rebuild out there. Market that's related to this outside of the Carolinas, Atlanta, has a lot of carriers really kind of position their trucks in this area. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the outbound tender volume for the Atlanta market and the inbound tender volume, Atlanta, just to give a little bit of perspective. I meant to compare those. And the OTVI.ATL, compare these. So you can see here as well, a lot more inbound volume in Atlanta than outbound volume. Atlanta is the #1 freight city in the country in terms of volume. So again, you're going to have a lot of capacity in the Atlanta market available. So I guess the lesson here is that there's tons of capacity in the Southeast this week, as trucks have probably positioned their fleets strategically in order to take advantage of some of this. A lot of good, these loads are really good paying. So a lot of this is no secret. A lot of these carriers know this, and they've positioned their fleets in these markets, and hopefully they're able to help a lot of people as well in the interim as they kind of slowly rebuild. But again, this is probably not the black swan events of last year. I anticipate that there will be a little bit of impact as we move into the late third quarter, but it will not be the event of Harvey and Irma last year, unless there's another hurricane brewing, which I don't see one out there right now. So that will do it for this week, and thanks to everyone for tuning in. Stay tuned for more market updates.